Hi there, everyone. My name is Christian Eschbach, and welcome to another one of my album reviews. We are completing out David Bowie's Ziet 77 through 79, and we are completing that out with Stage. Stage is a double disc live album. Now, I assume, based on the musicians listed on the back, that this was all recorded at the same time. And I often mention how my computer likes to mess with me. So, my computer, when I bring it up, one disc, so disc one specifically, it lists as being from 1978. Disc two, it lists as being from 2005. I'm hoping they're both from 78, and musically it sounds like they're both from 78. I could be wrong. Now, it is really interesting listening to this album, and I'll explain as I go through here. This definitely had to have been recorded, I'm going to say, on the tour for Heroes and Low. There's no representation of Lodger on these. There is some other stuff on here. So basically, there's a lot of instrumental stuff on here, which surprised me because for Bowie Live, that's kind of like, really? A lot of this weird experimental stuff. And I would not have wanted to be your average Bowie fan going into one of these concerts. Because your average Bowie fan would have lost their shit. Especially if they hadn't picked up the new albums and they were hoping to go in and hear all the greatest hits. Because Bowie, 2 discs here, okay? Let's say this is all one concert with these 2 discs. None of this, like very few, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 real huge hits in 2 discs. All right, so let's get now. For most of these songs, at least on the first disc, I just covered them all in this set, so I don't feel the need to really kind of go into them in great detail. I'm going to kind of blow through the first album pretty quick. We got Warsaw, which opens up the set. That was an interesting choice. Really kind of sets it up to let you know you're going into a weird and different concert. That goes into Heroes. Makes sense. Would have been the big single at the time. What in the World? I'm surprised that this is here. Because I was not a big fan of this song on the album. You know, it's not bad, but it's not, no. Then you go to Be My Wife. Now, I really dug Be My Wife on the album that it came off of. And the part I really dug on it was the really heavy piano hits on the chorus. The boom, 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 doo, 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 boom, 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 boom. And they're not here on this. The instrumentation throughout this live show is definitely different. So it's really worth listening to these live albums, and I'm going to get into this more as I go through, just to hear how the instrumentation is so different from the way they're done on the albums. How it's got all this music has its own vibe compared to the album versions. Then we go into Blackout. Once again, definitely different from the album. Sense of Doubt. So we're now into another instrumental track. Speed of Life, really cool. Breaking Glass. Beauty and the Beast, which I thought was definitely a song that's been left out over the years when I was going through covering the Heroes album. I mentioned that. And then the first disc ends with Fame. Makes sense. Fame is a great song from that time period to end out with. Translates well. It's one of those songs that Bowie himself has redone over the years, even to give it another life, because, you know, he's a huge fan of that song. And you can tell. So the whole disc one's really interesting because as I've just reviewed all those individual albums, I've been listening to this whole thing nonstop. And then I go through and listen on here and you hear how the instruments sound live and the way it's played live and the way they kind of focus on different instruments in different spots, or there's instruments you can hear definitely a lot more that weren't, like the sax, for example. Sax seems to show up a lot more than I remember hearing it on the actual album. The piano feels like it's pulled back more in the mix. The guitars feel like they're pushed a little bit. Maybe there's less piano because it's more synthy, keyboardy. It's really kind of an interesting mix to go to, and it only gets more interesting as we get into the next disc. Because the next disc opens up with 5 years. So this is the first, after Fame and Heroes, this is the first major hit we've heard. And Fame and Heroes were big hits already at this point, we'll say, or closer to big hits already at this point. But they were not in the same level as 5 years, which people would expect to hear live. And right away, you're like, whoa, 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 what did you do? This is a different track, man. It does not quite sound the same. Then you hit Soul Love. I don't know this song. I don't know why I don't know this song, and this song just blanks on me completely. It's definitely not on any of the Bowie albums. I mean, I know it's on Ziggy Stardust, but it's like the one song on Ziggy Stardust that it's not. It is, but it isn't a song for me. It never has been. So when I hear it on here and how they've changed it up and how, it's got a different mix, it's kind of like, oh, really? Okay. And then same thing when you get to Star, which follows that up. And it's kind of like, all right. And then you get to Hang On to Yourself, and it's like, okay. And I mean, you can tell what songs they are, but they're definitely different. And then you get to Ziggy, and oh man, I'm pissed. The instrumentation changes on all the other ones. They're kind of like, yeah, all right, whatever. All right, you're doing something different with it. That's fine. When I get to Ziggy, though, man, it felt wrong. Ziggy feels like it should be kind of raw and pure and, like a real kind of rock kind of thing. And this sounds too refined, too nuanced, too pretentious. It is. Yeah, like that's where I want to go with it. It's like the pretentious version of Ziggy Stardust. Then we hit Our Decade, which goes into Alabama Song. I do not like this take on Alabama Song. Oh my God, no. I don't know what Bowie was thinking, but this is a really, really weird take on this song. And it's when he's doing the verses, it's really weird. It's like this kind of robotic, synthetic, kind of weird, stilted kind of vibe. And then, kind of loosens up as you go into it. And then it's not bad, but no, I just not into this version at all. Station to Station. Okay, not a bad tune. Don't mind it. Whatever. And then it finishes off with TVC 15, which is another song that I really honestly don't know from anywhere. But I really kind of dig it, man. I kind of thought this was a cool way to kind of close everything out, and I think it kind of worked. And the whole way around, this is yet another album where, unless you are a fan of this time period, or unless you want to hear something different, or unless you are really into Bowie, you're a hardcore Bowie fan, not an album I would recommend, man. That is just kind of weird. And just kind of weird kind of sums up this whole era of Bowie. It's just kind of weird. It experimental, unique, nuanced, really kind of vibey and interesting. And if you can find this as a set, if you can find the set, and I want to say I paid like 40, maybe $45 for the set. And when you think about it, at four different compact discs, even though one's a double disc, works out to, I know it worked out to like 10, $11 a disc when I picked up this set. And I'm okay with that, especially brand new, especially knowing they're all remasters. It sounds good on all of them. And it gives me a view into an era of Bowie that I've never really gotten to experience before. So for that, I really think this is a cool set. I would recommend this set to anybody if you can find it. Go for it. But be prepared. If you only know Bowie, if you're like a Ziggy Stardust fan like I was, or, like I've also personally covered, sorry guys, I've also personally covered the Let's Dance album at this point, which was definitely much more of an 80s vibe, kind of, great, kind of, warm. But this is definitely something different, man. This is a unique beast. The only, like, when I'm looking right now, quickly scrolling through, looking at my David Bowie Greatest Hits albums, the David Bowie Changes Bowie Greatest Hits album, 18 tracks on it, and it goes into the 80s, even up to the 90s. It's a 1990 release, and it has the famed 1990 mix on it. And in that whole entire mix, Heroes is the only song off of this collection that makes it on there. So even going by that, I never got to know any of this stuff. Heroes would have been the only song I would have known. So it's really, really kind of nice to hear stuff I haven't heard before, and to hear stuff that really should have been bigger songs than they were. Out of this entire set, Beauty and the Beast was really cool to discover. And like I said, a lot of the instrumental stuff, V2 Schneider, Sense of Doubt, Mosgar, Nukon. Still don't know how to say it at this point. You got Heroes, obviously. Be My Wife, that was a great one to discover. The Low album in general was kind of unique and interesting. Lodger was the biggest disappointment in here, and I'm okay with that as well. It was something different. Bowie was playing around. He was experimenting. The Stage live album definitely kind of throws me off as well. Low and Heroes I will probably listen to over the years a little more, and if I'm putting together instrumental mixes, a lot of this stuff will get thrown in there. But yeah, that's kind of it. That's where I'm done, folks. Let me know what you think. If you've picked up these sets, these individual albums, let me know. Comment section. While you're going down that way, there you might find a link that'll take you over to Patreon. Feel free to click on that. I got some stuff over there. Like button, subscribe button, bell for notifications. Peace, love. Take care. When I come back with all new music, brand new music, brand new, like released recently, brand new. I just found them in the music store. All right. Until next time, everybody. Once again, peace, love. Take care.